Hey there, welcome back. What have I got here? They say that flowers are a woman's best friend. Or was it diamonds? Want to know more? Okay, join me in the next episode of Science with Mr. N. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I am Mr. Nazri, and welcome to another episode of Science with Mr. N. Today, we are going to take a look at life cycles. We're going to take a look at life cycles of insects. I believe this is part 2 of your life cycles lesson package. And in lesson 1, you would have joined Miss O talking about what is the nature of studying about cycles in science, and especially you would have actually studied about life cycles of certain other animals. For today, we are going to take a look at life cycles of insects. Okay, now life cycles of insects. Let me just shift my video a little bit. Okay, now the number of stages in an insect's life cycle are different for different insects. Now, you would have known we study cycles because there are many things in nature that keep repeating. Among these will include the cycles of day and night. Among these will include the cycles of the season. Okay, and one very important thing that we actually study with regards to this topic are life cycles, that life repeats itself. Now, you would have actually learned in the characteristics of living things. One of them is that living things can reproduce, right? Okay, and this is what it means by life going in a cycle. It doesn't mean that we actually become younger again, but it means that we actually have young. And this young of ours, our children will grow up, become old, and they will have their own children, and the cycle will continue. And this cycle is not just for animals, and it is not just for human beings, it's also for insects. But insects is a little bit more interesting because they can either have a three-stage life cycle or a four-stage life cycle. Okay, the number of stages in an insect's life cycle are different for different insects. Generally, all of them will start off with an egg, and there will be a young stage, and there will be an adult stage. Yeah. Okay. Now, but some insects, they will have this additional stage called a pupa stage, where they undergo metamorphosis. There is actually a big change from how they appear from when they are young to when they are an adult. And one of the most popular examples of insects that we know are your butterflies. Okay, yeah. The young of butterflies are called caterpillars. Caterpillars will metamorphosize to an adult butterfly with wings and everything, with beautiful wings, splendid wings and everything, but they will actually go through a metamorphosis stage, the pupa stage. Let's take a look at some of the other examples that I have here. Okay, now as I've said before, okay, some insects look very similar at different stages. This is with reference to insects such as the cockroach, insects such as the grasshopper, where there are only 3 stages in their life cycle. Yep, and their young looks similar to the adult in terms of appearance. Okay, however, some will look very different, like that of the monarch butterfly below. And we can see from left to right, okay, that this is an example of an egg. Okay, this is the egg of the monarch butterfly, very small. There's one of them. Yep, you will see it there in white there on the leaf. That's how small the egg is. But the egg will hatch and the caterpillar will come out. and you can see the caterpillar, very nice, cute looking thingy with black, white and yellow stripes, and it is eating the leaf there. This caterpillar will go through a metamorphosis stage, a pupa stage. Yep, and this is shown in the third box there. The caterpillar will develop a cocoon around itself. Yep, and the caterpillar on the inside, the body of the caterpillar will actually change, and it will grow wings. It will become smaller. The body will become smaller. It will grow wings. Yep, it will grow the 6 legs. It will grow, it will develop characteristics of the insects that you and I have learned previously. Insects have got 3 body parts, 6 legs, yep, a pair of feelers, and that is what the adult butterfly has. That is what the caterpillar is moving into. Okay. 3-stage versus 4-stage life cycle. Some insects have a 3-stage life cycle, as I mentioned before. Some examples are the dragonfly and the grasshopper, whereas some insects have 4-stage life cycle. Some examples are the housefly, silkworm, and mealworm beetle. We are going to take a look at all these 5 animals here. Yeah, and they are animals. Do not forget that insects, they are classified in science under the group of animals. In science, animals are not just your big mammals like elephants, like zebras, and so on. It will also include other organisms, other living things such as fishes and birds, and especially the small ones, the insects. Okay, I choose to focus on these 5 animals for today, these 5 insects for today, because they are not your usual. Some of them, they are not usually covered in our science textbooks and so on. Okay, particularly the silkworm moth, yeah, and the housefly, which is not a very popular insect. Okay, but nonetheless, they are still insects, and we have got to learn a little bit more about them. You got to realize that the world of insects is more than just your butterflies, you know, and all the pretty insects out there. Now, first of all, let's take a look at the life cycle of a dragonfly. The female dragonfly will lay its eggs near or in the water. This is something interesting that I learned as well, that dragonflies, we normally see them near ponds. And there's a very good reason for that, that the dragonfly mummy will actually lay its eggs either inside the water or very near to the water at shallow areas. I guess this is for their protection. They want to avoid land animals from eating them. Yeah, I guess. Okay, but the female dragonfly will lay its eggs near or in water. Okay, and the egg will hatch into a nymph. Now, this word nymph, bolded in green, is something that is usually refers to the young of an insect in the young stage. Some other nymphs that you will actually remember or recall or may have actually encountered before are the cockroach nymph. Okay, we usually use the word nymph to refer to a young of an insect that goes through a 3-stage life cycle, the young stage. We do not call caterpillars nymph. There is another word for caterpillars, and we are going to take a look at that in just a while. Okay, but for the dragonfly, the egg hatches into a nymph. The nymph molts a few times as it grows before becoming an adult. You see the word molt here. Some of you would have already known what is the meaning of the word molt. Molting means to shed its skin. Just like you and I, as we grow up, yeah, we grow bigger, we grow taller, and our clothes do not fit into us anymore. And so our mummies and our daddies will have to buy new clothes for us to wear. Okay, same goes for the insect. Now, don't forget, what is the outer covering of the insect? The outer covering of the insect, if you can recall your lessons on diversity, is hard outer covering. Yep, some people may say it's an exoskeleton, but in the science syllabus, we call it hard outer covering. Okay, and this hard outer covering is, I wouldn't say it's bone. It is not bone. It's a slightly different chemical composition, but it's simply a hard outer covering. Bottom line, it is hard. And because it is hard, as the insect grows bigger and longer and so on, the hard outer covering cannot fit it anymore. Therefore, the animal, the insect will shed its hard outer covering. Yep. And then the new skin underneath will develop into a new hard outer covering for the new size of the insect. Okay, this process is called molting. Now, as the nymph grows bigger, it will come to a stage where it will develop wings proper, yeah, and it will grow into the actual appearance of the dragonfly itself. The nymph looks similar to the adult, except it is smaller and does not have wings. There is one more difference that is not mentioned inside this pack of slides, is that the adult dragonfly have the ability to reproduce. And this is something that I want all of you to understand, that in the animal kingdom, in science, adults are different from the young by virtue of their ability to reproduce. They may look similar, but the young cannot reproduce. A young can only be called an adult when it has the ability to reproduce. But I guess you will actually learn more about it with your teachers, not just in primary 3, but in future topics to come in your levels next year and so on. Okay. And so the dragonfly, the female dragonfly will lay its eggs near or in water. That is the life cycle of the dragonfly. Let's take a look at the life cycle of a grasshopper. How many stages do you think there are in the life cycle of a grasshopper? Let's find out. Okay, the grasshopper life cycle starts off with the egg stage. And this is an example of a grasshopper egg, yellow. You know, it kind of looks like candy. Yeah, very squishy and all that. And because the eggs are that fragile, okay, that the grasshopper will actually hide its eggs under maybe a leaf litter, or under certain shelter, so that predators cannot actually eat the eggs, or don't find the eggs and cannot eat them. Yep. Okay. Now, the adult grasshopper can lay about 20 to 120 eggs in the soil each time. And we see the words here, in the soil. So the soil will actually cover up the eggs and protect it from being spotted by predators. Yeah. So here comes the interesting question, that the grasshopper lays about 20 to 120 eggs in the soil each time. Yep. Okay. The question is, why do grasshoppers actually lay that many eggs? Okay, it lays that many eggs. It lays that many eggs because it's trying to have a higher chance of survival. Okay, yeah. If the grasshopper only lays one egg, now going back to us as human beings, some of you may have younger siblings, and your mother would have actually given birth to them. You would have only 1 or 2 younger siblings. That's it. Okay, but why does the grasshopper lay so many eggs? Why do insects lay so many eggs? The primary reason is they want to have an increased chance of survival. You see, when they actually if they only lay one egg, and that egg is eaten by predators, the grasshopper will lose its young. But if the grasshopper lays many eggs, yeah, the predators may eat some of the eggs, but some of the eggs may still so-called survive. It may still hatch into new grasshoppers, and the life cycle can still continue on. Yeah. Okay. Now, the grasshopper nymph, when it hatches, it looks very similar to the adult. Yeah, as you can see in the picture over here. Okay, it has 6 legs and everything except for the size and except for its ability to reproduce. A nymph looks almost the same as its parents, but it is smaller and has no wings. Now, as the grasshopper becomes an adult, yeah, as the grasshopper nymph becomes older, or rather becomes bigger, it molts several times, it becomes an adult grasshopper which has wings. Okay, The cycle repeats itself when a female adult lays its eggs on the sand or leaf litter. Okay, and that, my friends, okay, we come to a pause here in our video, in our lesson for a while. Those are the animals that have a 3-stage life cycle. Yeah. Do not forget that we have the next part of the lesson on 4-stage life cycle animals, where we are going to talk about the mealworm beetle, something that you guys have actually seen before, where we are going to discuss about the housefly, something that is not very commonly mentioned inside textbooks and educational materials. And we're going to take a look at something very special to me, silkworm moths. Yeah. So join me in the next episode of Science with Mr. N, where we talk about the 4-stage life cycle of certain insects. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that will conclude our video temporarily for the moment. We will continue on with the next part where we talk about the 4-stage life cycle. Okay, thank you, everyone.